So engagement. One of the things I really like about having the tool here that we can go through Google Docs is that we have a lot of ways that we can have students engage. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about is inserting voice or um, text in here so that they can speak or say what they want and have it be pre-typed, or we can upload things that are beneficial for students. Maybe it's a video that we're going to include for the instructions instead of just having the words and you're saying, okay, here are the directions and you're typing the directions. If you um, have a way to add a instruction that you're going to do verbally and that they can listen to, sometimes that's a little bit different. It kind of hits a little bit stronger for them when they are hearing it verbally. So that is something that I challenge you to incorporate on here, is maybe a link with the verbal instructions that you have with your Google Doc. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about is collaboration. And again, on that Google Doc, you're going to have them share it and automatically have them share it with the people that are in their group, and so that they can just jump right in and type all together. I do this with students as low as third grade, so I'm certain that your upper elementary students will enjoy the benefits. One of the things that I like to tell our students when they're collaborating on one doc is, when you're in here and you're with your group, it will show who is also in your document at the top. There will be circles here, like we have the D for me being signed in. But as your students start to collaborate, I ask them to change the color, to pick a color. And then as they're typing, then they're able to have their color there. But if there's someone different typing, then they can see who is typing what. And that helps all the students that are working together see who's writing what, instead of yelling like, hey, did you write that? Hey, who wrote that? They can automatically see that that person is that color and that they're adding that content. And so that they can readily be participating, whether they're sitting right together or they're 6 feet apart, as we are still kind of contemplating being distance with each other. So that's one of the tips that I have, is to have them do a different color for all of their content that they're adding. One of the things that is helpful for the students that I was working with recently, they lost their information, or they weren't really sure, or they made some changes and they didn't really like it. And they're like, I wanted to go back to the way it was. And so I quickly showed them that they could go to the version history and see which version that they wanted, and then they could go back and see. And this is also, I found it to be beneficial as the teacher, because say we have a student that's absent that day, but you want them to contribute, you can see what the class did, or what that group did prior to that person adding their content. And you can go back to the revision history and see who was in there and what did they do. And so you can name this version as, this is our rough draft or our first draft, and then they can also go back in there. You can also make a copy of it if you maybe want to change it and you're not really sure. Make a copy of it, so then that stays the original version and it's not changed. So that's something that I recently shared with students, and they were absolutely it was mind-blowing for them to go in there and do that. So the version history is something that I feel like it's a valuable tool for students and the teacher as well. The last thing that I want to share on the Google Doc is the comments. And I will give you a brief story about the comments and how we can harvest conferring and giving feedback with students. In the days prior, I would bring a student to my desk. I would look at their paper that they were writing. I would have my pen and we would have a conversation about what they were writing and their content. And whether we're virtual, and this is what I discovered while we were virtual, is that my own student, both my children had the exact same teacher, but virtually the teacher went in and printed out my child's paper and put it underneath a document camera and went line by line and explained the corrections or the comments that they had all through his paper. My older son saw what was happening and said, that teacher never explained things like that before. And I would have totally understood what they meant by, maybe conjugating a verb had they explained it in this way, instead of maybe embarrassing a student by showing it up front, or my child has Asperger's, so he doesn't tend to want to have that interpersonal interaction. But having it be something that was included on his document and having it be a private conferring session was transform everything. So you definitely can go to the top and do comments, but right in the line, you can give comments directly there. So it's telling me I can add my comment right in that line. Do I want it to go to Keith? Sure, I sure do. So I'm going to say @Keith. And if you put their name in, and it will populate who it is, and you can pick that person. And so once you direct it to them, then that person knows, number one, that this is the comment for them. And maybe you're saying, can you elaborate what you mean by, the photosynthesis and how it affects the growth of a plant? Can you explain that a little bit more? Can you define photosynthesis? Oh, this is what I mean by define. And you can either give the whole text of what you want them to do, or if you have different add-ons, I have an add-on called Moat, and I absolutely love it because I can do a voice comment just the way that I can type. But once I type in @ and their name, it's going to send them a notification that they have a message from you. And then they can go back in and look at your message directly that you have for them. I find that having this direct elaboration, direct comments, specifics of the conferring that we have with students, makes them feel like it's a more intimate lesson. It's a more intimate way of learning that they have. And we definitely are missing a lot of our interactions with students. And so I encourage you to add this type of tool use with your students.